Hi guys, hi everybody. We're going to have an interesting show today. Marcus, how's everything on your end?
Well, I can't complain, and surprise, surprise, we have a show today. We were a little bit late to set it all up because why, Amos? It's your fault. It's all your mistake. Tell us why.
That's true. I had a big flood in my basement. I was hauling water all night, but finally I'm here. So let's get it
Yeah.
going.
So in the end, we made it, and well, let's have a look at last week. And well, it was quite a boring week, right? Right, Amos? No revolutions, no riots, no stupid votes, no elections. So why? Why are we here?
Yeah.
Well, well, if you look at our card, what we have planned for today, there's a lot we have to talk about. We can see we have a look at the Republicans with their absolute crazy denials or appeasement offers, and it is absolutely crazy. We will also have a look at what happened in summer in Germany. It was while I was on holidays when we didn't have a show. And you will be astounded what you will see there when demonstrators tried kind of similar the same things you witnessed on the 6th of January. Amos will talk about the possibilities of a broader conspiracy behind. We also will have a look at the police and their connection to white supremacy. Yeah, Joe's light bulb finally turns on, as we will see, and it is absolutely incredible they are back. Beavis and Butthead are back, and absolutely fantastic. And I didn't list it here. I also and there we'll have also an interesting discussion about. We also will talk about AOC and in how far she is done and how far her credibility is completely over the completely down. And well, lots of things. And well, Amos, let's have a look who's here with us. We have Al. If Al is here, then everything will be good. We know this. Hello, Al. Hello, Bill Gabriel. How are you guys? And I hope some others will come also. I think it is quite a surprise that we finally did the show for today. And well, Amos, let's start. Let's start with the Republicans. And let's have a first look at one of the things some people may miss, but it is not there anymore. Trump is silenced. Um, Talking about this would afford minimum another show. We won't do this today. Well, he says clearly when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And let's have a look what happened last week. Please show the next one. Yeah, stop the steal. We see people, running around in the White House and taking stuff away and kind of crazy. And of course, it was on Twitter, and the assumptions were, of course, we know Trump, we know that he doesn't shy away from anything. That those people are looting the White House right now. And there's another pic we have where someone on the street. Uh, I cannot identify who it is. Maybe you can, Amos. He's wearing a painting which was made while a meeting with the Chinese leader. And well, first of all, I don't know whoever would put this on a wall in his house. I don't know. Uh, anyway, well, it seems like it is not the way as it's supposed to be for many of us because we have a statement. Which was given by, hold on, I can hardly read it. It is a White House official who is essentially in charge of all this, and they felt pressure to give a note to all concerned about media photos of items leaving the White House, and he says that they are rearranging stuff and nothing is taken away from the White House, nothing is looted or stolen, but you see the complete the complete absurdity in it. That they feel pressure to come out with this, because everyone, who saw this, the first thought, okay, they are taking anything away from the White House which is not essential and fixed there. And Amos, I don't know, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I haven't. Surprisingly, I haven't really come across that. So that's interesting. I hope something's left over. Maybe pieces of Lincoln's bed or
Yes,
a
yeah.
carpet from Roosevelt.
Yes, and I wonder why I wonder how, no, respectively, I wonder when Joe Biden will move to the White House, because I think it would take time, to get to get it all cleaned up and disinfected and stuff. Could hardly imagine, to live in a house directly after Trump left, because everything there is toxic, and well, I think it takes a while until Joe finally moves there, and yeah, craziness. So yeah, let's look at the past week. um Donald is now Donald the second. He's one record holder at least. Nobody before him, made it to become 2 times impeached. He did it finally. And it is remarkable that only 10 House officials voted with the Democrats in this case. We have a tweet here from the recount where they are listed up, and if you look at the names, there's of course one name which directly makes you astound, that Liz Cheney. We know Dick Cheney, in my opinion, one of the war criminals who belongs into prison for what he did in Iraq, together with Rumsfeld and George Bush too.
Yeah.
Well, I think they are sitting at home right now, as far as they're still alive, and they are cheering this, because they are not the worst villains anymore in American history, in the modern American history, at least, right?
Yeah.
George W. Bush, he must sit there and he must be all smile, right?
But the thing is that she's an anomaly, and that's why every one of the Democratic people who spoke that day mentioned Liz. Almost, I think, all of them mentioned Liz Cheney because it's like as cover, because it's
Of
at
course.
this point you have to have conservative creds to even say anything.
Yes, absolutely fantastic. Well, and in the end, 197 Republicans still stood strong with the so-called president. Uh, well, it says a lot. It says a lot about the state of the party. It won't be easy for Republican Party, and well, and now you got to see. One week or more than 1 week after this event, I would call it like this, you see it is more and more are dropping away from Trump. You have some fools, we will talk about some really foolish guy a little bit later, who still stick to the president, but slowly you can see they are trying to move away. We saw this before from Mitch McConnell, when he did not wanted to comment, and he wanted to keep his cards by his hand. You saw this with Mike Pence, with many others, and well, we will see where it leads. And now it is quite interesting how the Republicans want to create the future of their party, of their own personal careers. And well, there we have, of course, the notorious Flexi Lindsay again. And remember last week we reported about this when he was harassed at the airport by a lot of right-wingers and QAnon fans. And well, and he looked very touched in this interview if you look at his face. But let's roll it first, Amos.
I want to thank the police who came to my aid. I know people are frustrated. I wanted President Trump to win so badly. I thought he was a consequential president. I think he made the world safer and more prosperous. I'm a constitutional conservative. I believe in federalism, even when I don't like the outcome. There's a process under our Constitution. I followed it the best I knew how. I stand by my vote. But now, tonight, I'm calling on President-elect Biden to pick up the phone and call Nancy Pelosi and the squad to end the second impeachment. President Trump gave a statement last night that was helpful. It hit the mark. He wants to move on to a peaceful transfer of power. He wants this to end. I've been with him most of the day. He's going to focus on his agenda, his successes for the American people in the next few days. But Joe Biden said it's up to Congress regarding impeachment. No, President-elect Biden, it's up to you. Pick up the phone, call Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the squad and tell them, stand down. This will destroy the country even further. You have the power to do that. The question is, do you have the courage to do it? I told my supporters at home, the President of the United States, who I admire and supported, that it was time to move on. It was over. I'm asking no more of you, President-elect Biden, than I ask of myself. Pick up the phone and tell Pelosi, Schumer, and the squad to stand down. No more impeachments.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, the first thing, even if he tries, to come back to common sense, to apologize in a certain way or to defend himself, he's pouring vitriol in this. When you see who he wants Joe Biden to call, he wants to call Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, but
Right.
he also mentions the squad. And there is the vitriol in it. The squad has no power. We learned this, or they don't, they have the power, but they don't want to use it. But he's putting the vitriol in it, by naming them. The radical left, influenced by the squad, etc. He is pushing the same narrative, and this is so, this is so low. This is so despicable, in my opinion. Amos, what are your thoughts?
I think it's absurd. He was we saw last week how he was attacked in an airport. He runs back and all of a sudden he changes his tune, is all of a sudden flying in with Trump around or like meeting with him, and it's just it's hard to say anything about somebody like that has no self-dignity. They have no compass. They don't even respect themselves enough to stand by what they say. It's like they're being threatened and they fold. And that idea that Republicans keep promoting, that it's Democrats that are endangering the unity, is ridiculous, because not one of them has yet conceded that these claims of the fraudulent election were lies. And until they do that, that's what's dividing the country, not the fact that they're impeaching a president that is inciting and calling for a putsch. So it's just ridiculous.
Yes, and it is also ridiculous that he sums up so-called accomplishments in his view of Trump.
Yeah.
We are 4 days when we can all sum it up. We can all sum up the 4 years, and the sum is a red number, right? Is a red figure. Deeply red figure. So there is no accomplishment, even if he created more employment, etc. But it's gone. It's gone with the virus. So in the end, there's a big nothing. There's a big minus in the end, just like the whole presidency. But okay, but you're absolutely right with Lindsey Graham, and it is not the first time we are talking about him. We once made a nice a nice slide with him, which showed him as a contortionist, and this is exactly what he is. He a snake, a worm, would admire him for his abilities to deform himself. Up to he's a character of himself. Meanwhile, and I'm asking myself, who is taking this man after all this serious anymore?
Well, Marcus, he was re-elected, so obviously there are people who
his name is burned with the right wingers, with the QAnons and all those other stupid idiots, completely burned. And how from the so-called moderate Republicans can take this guy anymore for serious? I think this career should definitely be over. If not, there are reasons, to find that he also get prosecuted for something. Right?
Yeah, and Keith, nobody's sympathizing with this chap on this side.
No one. He seems to be hated by all, but somehow he's. I'm sorry to say this, but I think it is true. He's like a piece of shit, and shit always swims on the top of the water, right?
That's right.
But talking about shit, let's come to the next guys. Please describe what's going on there, Amos.
I would like a person to lose power when he misuses power.
For those who have concerns about the integrity of our elections, those who have concerns about what happened in November, this is the appropriate means. This is the lawful place where those objections and concerns should be heard.
Even if Josh Hawley has no idea what we're doing here today, I still think it's good that we're all having these kind of conversations, because not only speaks to the local people, but it's going to reach out.
Whether they should resign or not, I don't know how they can live with themselves knowing that people have died because of their words and actions.
I think they should be just flat beaten the next time they run. I think the American public has a real good, clear look at who they are. They're part of the big lie.
And there, Joe Biden is absolutely wrong, in my opinion. They should not have the chance to run anymore in the first place. There's one thing, from our German or European perception is that Americans tend to look forward, and to keep their optimism. In this case, you cannot accept, to look forward or to accept suggestions by the Republicans, to smoke the peace pipe now and forget about all this, because the situation is still as it is. Only Trump is gone, all the vitriol, all the hatred is still there, and this has to be examined, and there have to be found solutions how to deal with this problem. And also we got to see who was involved in every single step of what happened, and they need to be prosecuted, because this was a step America cannot tolerate. If they're going over to normal right now, the next time will be the final time.
Right.
You got to look back, and you don't got to apologize. And I can say this as a German, if you remember back in history, when Neville Chamberlain from the UK tried to appease Adolf Hitler, and to be friends with him, and it does not work. It makes those people stronger. Right, we got to show them you crossed the line, the red line. and everyone who crossed it has to pay for it.
Yep, and I think I just put a link in the chat. Cori Bush started a petition, and she actually introduced a bill to impeach certain people that are found conspiratorial. Ted Cruz and Hawley, the reason why they're being singled out is not because they're the worst or the only ones that were doing this, but they're clearly positioning themselves to run for the presidential elections of 2024, and that is the truly frightening thing. If they're not impeached, they can run, and they will claim succession to Trump and try to appeal to his voters, which is why they did all of this. So it's really like, but we have to mention that there were other like McCarthy and Graham and Gomer, all kinds of people that were trying to do this kind of dance, and they should all pay. They should all pay for it. So far, they've paid with the book deals, with the contributions, but these things are temporary. So
yes, and I don't know much about Josh Hawley, but the thing is, we know about Ted Cruz. We know at the beginning, before Trump went into office, before he got nominated by the Republicans, how harsh he was in war with Trump, right? And I think this is even more despicable, and shows that Trump is even more evil than maybe Hawley is. That Cruz is even more evil than Hawley is, because Cruz is an opportunist. He just sees the chance to get the Trump radicals behind him, and to grab next opportunity for the presidency. And this is in my opinion more despicable as maybe a real convinced right winger like maybe Hawley is.
Hawley is not a real convinced right winger.
He's the same opportunist guy like Cruz. You want to
exactly? He's shifted his position. I don't want to get into it, but his whole trajectory through Congress was very pragmatic and opportunistic. So
all right, okay. Good to know. So they are both opportunists, and those are, yeah. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to the reactions of the world. And there are some interesting reactions, especially coming from the not so democratic world. And roll it, please.
Yeah, I'm not too impressed, to tell you the truth, about the non-democratic responses, because it doesn't deter. Like, it's embarrassing for the U.S., that's for sure, and they're enjoying rubbing it in.
This is
right, but it doesn't make their politics any more palatable because the U.S. has trouble. It doesn't justify their dictatorships.
you're absolutely right, but you can see how they enjoyed to have the chance,
yeah.
to mock what happened, right?
Of course, yeah.
And well, the reactions from the world, and then we learned, after a lot of stubbornness, of defensive words and appeasement trials. You know what? You saw what happened when suddenly a metal detector was positioned in the White House, and it was quite interesting to see the reactions. And please roll this, and we will see there a lady we also talked about.
This attack didn't come from the inside, it came from the outside. And to respond by restricting members' Second Amendment rights in the very institution that is supposed to uphold those rights is appalling. Take note, America. This is what you have to look forward to in a Joe Biden administration.
In this rule, they say you have to walk on the House floor, you have to go through a metal detector. Member of the United States Congress walking on the floor to represent 750,000 people in our district.
If you work at McDonald's, you have to wear the uniform or you're not working today. If you are, wherever you are, when you're told this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do, or you're not working. And I don't know, maybe it's because I don't know, have they ever had a job before? If they won't abide by the simple things that this job calls for, then go find another one.
By the way, the piece of news that came out after this was that some of the same people who were the ones that are considered to have taken people on tours the day before were the ones that had refused to show their bags and walked around. And this lady, I think that the metal detector detected something, and she refused to open and show her bag, and eventually they let her through because they couldn't stop her. But Nancy Pelosi,
sorry when I interrupted. It was Marjorie Taylor Greene, as I call her, the big empty, and we saw her from her promotion videos, and she was firing at socialists, I think, at everything, which could make the life of Americans easier, but should be communist somehow, and she was shooting at, she is, I think this lady is dangerous. She is dangerous. And,
right.
and in the first place, when I heard about it, the first place was not that those 10 Republicans refused to go through it. It was, how in the hell can it be that in Congress it is needed to install a metal detector? Who on God's fucking earth, as an elected representative of the people, goes into this assembly hall weaponized? This is the first thing which is completely crazy, in my opinion, right?
Absolutely. And the fact that they installed it is because there were people of members of Congress that expressed fear of their colleagues. They expressed fear that somebody might shoot them inside the chamber.
AOC, for example, and we can think about AOC whatever we want, but there is one big difference. Nobody should come into a situation where he has or she has to fear for his life. And this also includes Lindsey Graham. This should be not the style, If they committed crimes, they should be prosecuted according it without exception, and that's it, But it is absolutely not tolerable, that people have to fear for their lives, right?
Yeah, and so far Nancy Pelosi has instituted a progressive rule, the only progressive rule so far that she's instituted, but the rule goes, if you go through if you avoid the metal detector first time, you pay a fine of $5,000. Second time, it's $10,000. It keeps going up. So they're serious about it.
And they are not waiting until you pay it. You know, it's discounted directly from your pay, and that's the good idea. You know, so nobody can sneak away and say, "No, I will pay later. I won't pay." No, it's directly gone, the money. So do this, and yeah, maybe at the end of the term they can make a big party out of it. I don't know where it wanders. Maybe it's tip or so. I don't know. Anyway, but
tell me, what the fuck is going on in Germany?
Well, it was during my holidays when we didn't have a show, and we missed to report it. And because on the one hand, there were so many other news regarding Corona, and there was so much going on. But when the pictures came up and the reports came up about the Capitol riots, yeah, I had to remember what was happening here in late August. And before I continue, I will comment the video because it is in German, but you will see something which you might find very interesting and comparable.
This is an incredible piece of video, by the way. I haven't seen it before. It's quite amazing.
This is Germany. They are storming the Reichstag. This is where our government sits. Right-wingers, conspiracy theorists, and coronavirus deniers. 38,000 were there in Berlin, and a group of them tried to storm the Reichstag. And also the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, a party, here called, to show up. There you can see when things get serious. And there also was not enough police at the Reichstag. But they could defend it. Nobody got into it. And this woman is spreading conspiracy theories about the usage of wearing a face mask or not, because the virus is much, much smaller than the material of the mask or some bullshit. And, but it was a wild mix, as you can see. It was, normally you would think it was a kind of festival,
Yeah. Same
Some
as
people
here,
were praying
these
there.
weird costumes. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about some guys in America 1.5 weeks ago, it is not, those pictures are not so far away. Those are Nazis, neo-Nazis here in Germany. Division Odin speaks for itself. Here's a rapper in Germany. The identity movement was also in there. And a little bit kumbaya.
Hare
Spread
Krishna,
the virus of the Lord.
that blew me away.
Crazy. And Gandhi. They're overtaking the symbols for their own purposes. And it doesn't matter how crazy it all is.
Makes no sense.
Trump, of course. The alu hats. Yeah. And the crazy thing, some politics, are the same, which we also want, anti-globalization and stuff, but they're approaching all these topics from a complete right-wing perspective. Yeah.
People have lost their mind, Marcus.
Yes, and this is what I wanted to show you. It is not only America. The danger is everywhere, and this is why I said last week, that all the democracies in the world have to stand up, not only to help America because America is so nice to everyone, but for their self-purpose, to keep their own democracy sane, right? And if you see that 38,000 in August marched, I mean, it was still coronavirus time, You cannot underestimate this. And it was only a small group, finally, not the 30,000 tried to storm the Reichstag, but it is about the importance of the picture it produces. Those pictures are staying in mind. Do you remember? Your dad was once in 2021. He was at the Capitol. And this is the danger. It transports the wrong images. And we got an article about here. It is coming from the German Zeit magazine, and they examined in how far there are parallels between the movements in Europe and in America. And there are lots of differences between the movements, but there are also some similarities because if you see, there's one thing I highlighted: these right-wing extremists in the US and in Europe are granted legitimacy far too often by opportunists within the democratic spectrum, usually conservatives, but also economic liberals, and judge for yourself in how far does this fit also for America, or let's go to the next one. The fact that lawmakers and journalists were forced to hide was yet another milestone for this movement. The message to all of these followers is the same. The final battle between us and the supposed dictatorship is coming. Get ready. We can emerge victorious. This is exactly what I say. And I can read the complete article of this one, the complete passage of this. In this aspect too, the attack on the Capitol was a signal. It could very easily have turned out to be a demoralizing event for the right wing. If, for example, the state had clamped down sufficiently to intimidate or even humiliate the mob. If the attack had produced images of Trump followers handcuffed on the ground or fleeing the police, if, for example, the images from last Wednesday had been similar to those produced last summer when the US president scandalously had peaceful Black Lives Matter demonstrators beaten and driven off just so he could pose with the Bible in front of a church. This is exactly the point. It is about the images it produces on the one side, if it goes against Black Lives Matters or other demonstrators, or if it is about a white supremacy or it is against whites. And it goes on. The images of violent perpetrators who were amicably helped out of the building instead of being led away in handcuffs, or the picture of assailants taking selfies with the police, are an additional message from the right-wing radicals. It is a message intended for their opponents. Are you certain that your police will protect you when things get serious? And this is exactly the point where you don't have to look forward. You have to look at every detail, and you have to do a very, very close look into your police. How is your police working? In how far is your police infected? We have the same discussion here in Germany, and and we know that we are leading the discussion for quite a time right now, in how far the police is blind on the right eye, or in how far they are infected, and also the discussion is here in Europe. And this is worrying. Yeah. And well, I don't know how to solve this, but one thing is clear: if we don't concentrate as societies, as so-called democratic societies, on what is important, what makes a democracy, and if we are continuing staring at finances or other stuff, then the democracies won't survive. I think these were clear signs. And if you look at other parts in the world, look at Brazil, look at India, China, Russia, Look at Europe. Look at Hungary. Look at Poland. And maybe France also falls. You know, if Macron goes on like this, the next election Le Pen will lead the country. It is dangerous, and we got to do all we can do to prevent this going on. We got to fight the right, and in a justified way, in a lawful way.
It certainly feels like we're at an inflection point. That's for sure. I don't think anything will ever be the same it was, not just for the United States, but worldwide. I think we're reaching a point in civilization where civilization is becoming very difficult to keep on course for various reasons. And I'm
yes.
wondering whether this is even a wider thing, if it's nature trying to defend itself from humanity or whatever it is. It's just it seems to me more than coincidental that this is happening all over the world at such scale.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Amos, I think it's your turn. We are staying with this topic. We are staying in the topic, and you have the timeline of what happened. Please explain it.
Yes. So basically, I'm concerned that this has been more than just a random kind of thing, like as some people think it is. Not only from the perspective of what went on with the crowd, but also what happened with the people in power. And to get through this, I will go through the timeline to illustrate, to give like a zoom out perspective. So we had Trump warning that any loss of elections on his part would be due to fraud. That was way before the elections. But that's how he started preparing people. After that, Trump refused to commit to a peaceful transition. He was asked numerous times, and he kept avoiding this and saying things like, "Oh, we'll have to see." After that, Trump replaced the Pentagon leadership with loyalists. So he fired the first line of defense, Department of Defense people, and replaced them with people who had little experience, but what they had in common was that they were loyalists. And some people were ringing the alarm bell, saying that this is very, very scary. This is what happens in dictatorships before coups. They replace the military people at the top with people who would be absolutely loyal. After that, Trump's postmaster that he recently appointed attempts to sabotage the mail service. They dismantled machines to slow things down, and he's stopped, but not before creating some damage to the USPS. Then we hit November 3rd elections. Right as the elections happen, almost immediately as the picture starts to become clear, Trump calls elections fraudulent same night, and immediately and declares that that could not be possible. Then after that, Giuliani and other Trump allies bring 68 lawsuits actually, and they're all thrown out of court. They're basically, there's no evidence that substantiates it, and they're just tossed. The states certify election results, but Trump's attempts to pressure the Pennsylvania state government to override the public vote and give their own thing. Here's the video of Trump saying that he was going to not accept the.
In 78 days, we're going to stop the radical left. We're going to win the state of Wisconsin, and we are going to win 4 more years. And then after that, we'll go for another 4 years because, you know what, they spied on my campaign. We should get a redo of 4 years. So we have to win the election. We can't play games. Get out and vote. Do those beautiful absentee ballots, or just make sure your vote gets counted. Make sure, because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. It's the only way we're going to lose this election. So we have to be very careful. Look, this is more than this election. That's a big statement. The only way they're going to win is that way, and we can't let that happen.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And here's another
one of the many.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
What were you saying?
I say one of the stupid speeches we are soon not hearing anymore.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing he said.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country.
The president said he would take his fight to the Supreme Court. There is no evidence to support Donald Trump's claim of fraud, and millions of ballots are still being counted as they.
That was the night of the elections, if you remember. So after that, Trump pressures Republicans in Congress and the vice president to unlawfully overrule the certified votes. And that is something that they're not supposed to be doing in Congress. The whole idea of Congress is to certify ceremonially. The court was where the contesting of the vote was supposed to happen, and that failed. So at this point, Trump calls the governor of Georgia and urges him to find more votes. I don't remember actually if it was the governor or Raffensperger. I think it was Raffensperger.
I think it was Raffensperger.
Yeah. So he kind of he knows how to, as a criminal, he knows how to cover himself. So it's clear that he's saying the things that he needs to say, so he couldn't be caught in the claim that he wanted them to fabricate things. He's kind of justifying it, that the vote was obviously fraudulent, even though he knew at that point that all the courts were refuting that, and everybody in Georgia government was refuting it, and he was still making those claims in order to find more votes. After that, the state certified the results. Trump pressured the GOP Congress people and the vice president to unlawfully overdo. At that point, Capitol Police, in preparation for the vote, rejected help. They were offered help by the FBI and the National Guard to support them during the protest that was scheduled that day by Trump.
So, and here, sorry, Amos. Here I got a question, because there's a point where I have doubts. My doubt is, if the FBI has information, and they should have those information, and they inform the Capitol Police, and they get rejected, I think the next step should be for them to contact the Democrats or the party separately, right?
That would have been a political thing.
If there was such a danger,
no,
it would be the next step. If they see the Capitol, then I would inform at least the Democratic leaders.
I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. That you're raising an interesting question, but then it becomes a political football. So I'm not sure if that is something that I think they may have wanted to avoid seeming political at that point.
If the FBI has indications that the lives of House representatives or senators are on the risk, I don't think that they would see this as only a political football. I think this, in the end, if someone would have been killed or seriously hurt, it would be a boomerang for them. It would come back somehow. So I would, if I would be in this position, I would assure myself from all sides.
Right, but you're also assuming in hindsight, because we didn't know, and they couldn't have known at that point that the Capitol Police would act in such a way. They released people home the day off. They didn't on purpose left areas open, and that's another point on my timeline that actually makes the point that there was something more sinister going on there. Well, also we know now that some Congress people noticed that other Congress people were taking people who turned out to be militia people that showed up the next day. They were taking them on tours of the Congress, and that could have been the reason how they found certain offices during the raid. They found offices that were unmarked. For example, Clybourne has two offices, a public office and an office somewhere else that is unmarked, and not many people know about it. And somehow, out of hundreds of offices on the floor, they went straight to that office. They went straight to Pelosi's office. So somebody knew where things were and how to get there. So that by itself raises a question if there was other involvement there, we all saw the videos of Trump giving out the speech, and we know how inflammatory that was. Somebody actually he used a piece of the speech that I couldn't find it, but I remember from reading Hitler's Mein Kampf or other documents or speeches. I don't remember what it was exactly from where, but he made a similar metaphor to Trump that day. Trump mentioned that Democrats are fighting like a boxer with their arms tied behind their back, and they shouldn't have their arm tied behind the back. I believe with Hitler it was the metaphor of a boxer who is fighting by the rules but actually should take a gun out and shoot the opponent. So I think that might have been a dog whistle that's been missed, but people certainly on the far right would know better than me what associate with that. But anyway, so we know that that's been the case. We also know that after the speech, Trump retired to the White House and watched the events. It was noted by people close to him that he actually was enthusiastic about it when he found out that when he was watching what was going on. Meanwhile, the mayor of D.C. requested the help of the National Guard, and at that point, when an angry mob overpowered the police, Trump instructed the Pentagon leadership, the people who he installed in place, the loyalists. He instructed them to deny the National Guard from deploying. It was only Pence that a few hours later opened the that request and allowed the National Guard to rush to the hill to help. And after that, the Congress, of course, continued with the vote, and still some Congress people were still making the accusations of the fraud and not letting go. Like Hawley was continually, like he insisted on the continuing with that objection. And then after that, Trump tweeted. First, he tweeted. Trump tweeted, "Be something like be safe or act in peace," but he didn't say leave the place. Only hours later, he tweeted to go home, and then he gave this speech that we've all seen, where he says, "I love you and you're special," and didn't at all criticize any of the people who at that point was clearly endangering lives in Mike Pence's life and other people's lives, police lives, and just refused to say anything bad about them. Only the day after, 30 hours later, he came out with a speech that he read from a teleprompter that said that that was unlawful. So looking at all of this, my question is whether Trump was in on it, whether this was something that was arranged between the chief of police, who subsequently lied to a congressperson regarding the preparedness of the Capitol Police for the protest. I think he was in on it. I think they were engineering weak spots where protesters would come into the buildings, but I don't think it went the way they expected. And I think that the idea behind it was not to necessarily force the Congress to change their vote or anything like that, as people are questioning. It wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't be the cause for it. I think the cause for it was to give context for a martial law. And if a martial law was enacted, then anything else is a game, and nobody knows really what would happen at that point. So I think that was the main point. It didn't work the way he thinks, especially because police was more restrained, which meant that it didn't go off the rails as much as they were probably hoping. And as a result, we didn't get martial law. They weren't able to justify it. But that's my theory, and we will see in the upcoming days. They're probably going to investigate all of this and figure out who knew what and how they were involved. Certainly, some of the people that were on the scene, they were not random people that came to the protest and then moved on to the Capitol. They intercepted on social media, on special places like Zello and stuff like that. They intercepted communications between people who are actually planning for a semi-militaristic action. And I don't know why they weren't successful, but it appears that they were definitely intent on doing something much more severe, much more serious. And the latest thing you want to talk about it?
I just wanted to comment if it was organized by Trump. I think you will never find a trial leading to Trump. You will never find indications directly leading to him. Maybe it was diligently arranged in the background. Maybe, and this is only a maybe. No conspiracy bullshit. it is just a name which comes into my mind is Steve Bannon, and that he might have activated by QAnon or bullshit, to push out the narrative. And maybe there were some groups from which we learned they were led around by representatives and one day before to get familiar with the situation. I think this might be, from what we know today, it is only a small group which might have got certain hints what to do where, but it was no organized coup or something like that.
Well, that's my point, that it wasn't in that sense, it wasn't organized from the top down. What they did is went in both directions.
It was mafia style, if you want so.
Yeah, but they incited the people, and on the other hand, they created the opportunity for them to get in.
Exactly. And what we know is that that he promised that he would walk with the crowd to the Capitol, and he directly went home to the White House and sat before the TV and watched how the things would develop. And I also heard about the rumor, I don't know where it was, that maybe he was waiting for the moment in which he could declare the state, or I don't know how do you call it, the state of national emergency or something like this, in which the military and he as a commander of the military would take over, and to prevent in the last second the Joe Biden presidency, the confirmation, right? These are all rumors, but what we know from this point, and what we see, what kinds of people were around. On the other hand, it would also be a perfect opportunity to cover, if you got so many maniacs around, being dressed with buffalo horns and bullshit with Confederate flags. And so, well, it would be easy to have a group of them who know exactly what to do, right? But it was definitely no organized coup, but this would have been looked different. But as you said, everything is possible. We don't know much enough until today, and we gotta wait until we get more information on it.
But there's certainly a lot of questions, and the fact that people like this guy, and you probably recognize him from the commercials. Yeah. Do you love your pillow, Marcus?
I used to buy my pillows from a German producer, so I sleep well and deep. I don't know how you guys are doing.
Obviously, we're not sleeping as well.
But I want to. Before we go over to this, I want to say something. I noticed that the Convo Couch was in chat shortly, and I could not follow everything. But what I saw was that they questioned the narrative that Joe Biden won the war, that the fraud is real, and if it is what I got, what I saw, then well, I only got to say, as long as we don't have proof for this, real proof, I cannot follow this narrative. It may come out later that something is wrong about it, but as long as we don't have it, we have enough conspiracy theories in the world right now.
Right.
And so I think we should concentrate on the things we know right now. And if things develop in other directions, be sure that we will talk openly about it and not trying to cover anything. We are trying to cover most possible perceptions from both of us, and this is all we are doing here. And if the Convo Couch has a different opinion on it, it is okay. But in this case, up to this moment at least, I cannot follow this narrative.
Neither can I. I think I don't know exactly what's in their heads, but they're playing straight into the Trump narrative. They, if they could have proven it, they would have proven it. It was 68 court cases, no evidence. It was thrown out of every single court, and frankly, I mean, that's the litmus test. That's the test. If there's something,
well, I think maybe something comes out later. I don't want to get too deep into the conspiracy box. I don't want to grab too deep into it. you know, we can also talk about 9/11, you know, and how far it is credible what we got served. You know, it is absolute nonsense in my opinion, and maybe it comes out later. You know, maybe there's something on it, that there was something that there is a fraud in. But now what we know is that that everything was according to the rules, and we are dealing this according to the facts we have right now. And that's what I wanted to say to this.
Okay, do you want to
yeah
talk about Michael
well
Lindell?
we learned I never heard about this guy anyway, you know, and I checked him on Twitter, and there were some funny tweets about him, and some were really matching, you know. They were compared, you know, as the little bigger and thinner brother of Paul Bearer. You guys might remember him from wrestling, and he was the manager of The Undertaker. And he's, you know, if you look at him, he looks a little bit like him. But this is the funny side of it. The not funny side is that he had a meeting, I think it was yesterday or the day before, with Trump. It was narrated that it would only be 5 to 10 minutes. And well, I think it was, the text here says it was taken from The Guardian. A Washington Post photographer caught him, and he photographed him, and he carried his notes openly. And there was something really strange in it. You know, if you see here, there were suggestions, you know, for insurrection act as a result of the assault on the rest was not readable anymore. It goes on, martial law if necessary, and move Kash Patel to CIA acting. Crazy stuff, you know.
Also something about blaming. Something about blaming Iran and China for foreign intervention.
Also, he's completely deep into the conspiracy thingy, he's a diehard Trump supporter for, I don't know for how long.
Marcus, I think you're missing the point here. It's not his conspiracy theory. He doesn't believe those things. Those are suggestions to clamp down, to give Trump,
to overthrow it,
to overthrow the government. It's not. It doesn't have any intel. Obviously, these are plans to give to Trump in order for him to overthrow the government.
Yes, because on the legal way, everything is finished for him. Of course, he tried to overthrow the elections. You know, and you can say he's a single lunatic, and well, but that those people have access, you know, to the president, and the danger here is, and I see where you're coming from. The danger here is there are not many people around Trump anymore, from what we are hearing. Right. He's nearly like a ghost in a castle, you know, rattling with his chains, and if he got the wrong advice at the wrong time, who knows what can happen, you know. At least we know that the Democrats already were in talks with the military leaders, and they assured to take the football away from Trump, you know, that he cannot do the most terrible thing, which is thinkable, right? But the fact that those guys have access to the president and coming up with more or less detailed plans to overthrow the elections, it is crazy, and it perfectly fits into our time, in my opinion. Yeah. Well, talking about police. Law enforcement's response to more than 13,000 protests show a clear disparity in responses, new statistics show. And what we all knew already, what we all witnessed, what happened in summer, the brutality the police showed against demonstrators, peaceful demonstrators, elderly people, media people. It was horrifying to see, and it was more disturbing to see that the blue lives at the Congress were in heavy discussions with protesters, taking selfies, leading them out of the building by hand so they don't stumble down the stairs. And it was completely different to what we saw. And we also saw the self-conscious of the people who were in the Capitol, you know, that they were aware they are white, that nothing dangerous could happen to them. You know, and we said yesterday, and also we had this this short clip from Joe Scarborough last week. You know, imagine if they were black or if they were Muslim. You know, I think the cleaning troops would be busy until today to clean up the blood from the floors. And well, the new numbers. Let's come to this. The statistics based on law enforcement responses to more than 13,000 protests across the United States since April 2020 show a clear disparity in how agencies have responded to the historic wave of Black Lives Matter protests against police violence compared with demonstrations organized by Trump supporters. The new statistics come from the US Crisis Monitor, a database created this spring by researchers at Princeton and the Armed Conflict Location and Even Data Project, a nonprofit that has previously monitored civil unrest in the Middle East, Europe, and Latin America. So it was a completely new field for them to cover. So they came up to the following conclusions. Police used tear gas, rubber bullets, beating with batons and other force against demonstrators at 511 left-wing protests and 33 right-wing protests since April, according to updated data made public this week. The Guardian compared the percentage of all demonstrations organized by left-wing and right-wing groups that resulted in the use of force by law enforcement. For left-wing demonstrations, that was about 4.7% of protests, while for right-wing demonstrations, it was about 1.4%. Meaning law enforcement was about 3 times more likely to use force against left-wing versus right-wing protests. I think we got we saw it in the summer. Now we got the numbers for this. It goes on. The disparity in police response only grew when comparing peaceful left-wing versus right-wing protests. Looking at the subset of protests in which demonstrators did not engage in any violence, vandalism, or looting, law enforcement officers were about 3 times more likely to use force against left-wing protests than right-wing protests, with about 1.8% of peaceful left-wing protests and only 0.5% of peaceful right-wing protests met with tear gas, rubber bullets, or other force from law enforcement. And here's a conclusion which Dr. Rudabe Kishi, the director of ACLED, comes. Police are not just engaging more because left-wing protesters are more violent. They are engaging more even with peaceful protesters. That's a clear trend. Yeah, what do you say, Amos? I mean, we saw this during the summer. We saw this, what happened at the Capitol. We now got the figures for this.
Yeah, we suspected that just by looking at those and comparing the optics, but now it's scientifically borne out. So
yeah, and it confirms that that the police needs a deep systemic overhaul, at least. You know, it is not anymore defund the police. It has to be a complete reformation. You know, you gotta examine the mindset of your police. Who is in charge? Who is fighting for what? Who is with both feet on the ground of the Constitution? I think it's an important question for someone who is allowed to carry a gun, you know, and having and has the job to be in service for the society. And there's always a narrative, you know, that police represents always, you know, what the society is. You know, it is just a copy in a little in a smaller version of what the society is. But this is the wrong approach. Because they are police, they have to be better.
Of course.
They don't have to be average. They have to be better than the average, because they have a duty. You know, well, it is if in Germany we have the same question here, we have the same discussion here, and I also reported about this a couple of months ago. Our Minister for the Interior, until today he refuses to make a study, you know, in how far the German police acts racist or not, or in how far the German police is blind on the right eye. And I know that Germany needs this study, and we definitely know that America needs this, you know, and not only the study, they need the reform badly.
Agreed. Right. Yep.
Amos, what do you have here?
Oh, wow. Well, I wanted to touch this because it's a very troubling thing for me. I haven't been sleeping very well the last few days, not only because of my plumbing issues, but also because of what's going on. And the fact is that Trump may go, maybe even some of these politicians, but we're here to stay with a growing public that is becoming more and more radicalized, more and more extreme and insular in their opinions, because they go into these echo chambers, and perhaps these attempts to shut down some of the discussions of the extreme right are driving them further underground. And to me, this looks like there's a writing on the wall. I think we're becoming ISISification, or whatever you want to call it. If you look at this is a little bit in jest, but still, I mean, there's similarity there. Al-Qaeda, that's what they call this movement. So yeah, it's becoming apparent that we have this growing number of amount of in the population that is threatening democracy in a real way. And the question is, what do we do? There's people who are saying, well, talk to them and let's have a dialogue. And then there's people who are saying, no, there's no space for dialogue. You know, if you're a fascist, you should be beaten back. You shouldn't. It's not even a position that is legitimate. There's a comedian that I wanted to share here that has his own podcast, and here's something that he put out.
Do you not ever just sit there and think, my kids are going to see this, my grandkids are going to see this? They're going to put it in the textbook, and you're going to look like the dumbest mother in the world. Nobody will give a about Watergate. Nobody. That is... Dude, I'm out of breath from how stupid y'all are. What is it that this country doesn't give you that you think you have to do some like this?
Corey Ryan Forrester is a comedian and host of the podcast Through the Screen Door. He joins me now from deep inside Trump country, a place called Chickamauga, in recently liberated state of Georgia. Did I get that right? Hey, Corey.
Yeah, you got it.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Chickamauga. Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Well, we just heard part of your rant, I guess we could call it, that you put on Twitter. Is it a safe assumption, listening to that maybe you've given up on the old, let's just talk to each other and find a middle ground approach? Is that because it's hard to find a middle ground with people who want to stage a coup and overthrow the government?
Yeah, look, there's certain things that there's a line in the sand and I don't draw it. Like when people say that, like, oh, back in the day we used to be able to agree to disagree on things. To me, it's like, yeah, we can agree to disagree on like some foreign policy, and we can agree to disagree on like maybe taxes. But when it comes to just number one, outright treason, and also outright racism and bigotry and borderline Nazism, like, no, I kind of don't have to reach across the aisle to you in that way.
Yeah, so that's a point. And this guy is a progressive. What's that?
I thought this was the other video you chose. You know, I watched the original one without the beeps, and it was hilarious.
Yes, yeah, I recommend you checking it out. But yeah, I mean, he makes an interesting point, and nobody really knows how to address this thing. And this guy's like a progressive in the South. It's not that he doesn't think that this country can't do much better for everybody. It's that he really thinks that it's stupid the way fascists act. And yeah, so I would like to know just a straw poll of you guys in the chat. Who of you thinks that we should talk with them and have a dialogue, or who thinks that this guy is right and there's no place for dialogue? Meanwhile, I will share another piece of video, and that is a really interesting video that Joe Scarborough, who's a past Republican, was doing on his show, and this might surprise you. Let's watch.
People like me that would make the argument, if we don't push forward these economic reforms, it is American capitalism itself that is endangered. Because I grew up in a white suburban neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. My mom and dad, they struggled through the Great Depression, but hey, they had middle-class jobs. And they could afford to send us to college. And they were bought into the American dream. If it keeps getting worse, there are going to be fewer and fewer Americans buying into the American dream. So don't we have to do this to save American capitalism from itself?
That's certainly my belief. And this tag that moderate Democrats like Barack Obama and Joe Biden have gotten as socialist, this socialist crap that Republicans and the right, just at every instance, any program that the Democrats propose is socialism, is ridiculous. The most successful capitalist free market economies on earth, some of them are the Nordic countries, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, that are absolutely capitalist and also have these really robust social welfare systems, social democracies that, as they understand, allow their free market capitalism to prosper, allow them to have more billionaires, sorry, Anand, per capita than the United States does. So yeah, if like FDR in the 30s, right? He was saving American capitalism, this rich guy, and welcomed the hatred of his fellow rich people who called him a socialist at the time.
Well, took him a long time to come around to Bernie. And
No. Don't let you get fooled by Joe Scarborough. From time to time, he has this attitude, you know, that he sounds completely to be on the Bernie ship. You know, he did it also in the past, you know, and then one day later he completely showed his old face again, and you cannot buy anything which is coming from Joe Scarborough, in my opinion.
My point here is that I think that the recent events have scared a lot of people in the elite, and they're seeing that they could lose everything very easily. If we lose a democracy, they will be toast. They will have huge trouble themselves, even if they align with the fascist government. It would be difficult.
Yeah.
So I think that they're picking, you know, like what's the least lesser evil at this point, and they recognize that, and what is important for us to mark, though, is that yes, my understanding of this whole thing is such. I don't think we should negotiate or have a dialogue with fascists. However, I think that there's underlying social issues, economic issues that are firing that base, that are strengthening it because of all our problems. People not having decent pay, not having health care, all the things they feed in. And if those were addressed, these extremists would have been far diminished. And I think that using the understanding of elites at this point, and whoever will understand, whoever doesn't can't do anything about it. But I think there might be some moving the needle on that. Just the way Scarsborough's thinking goes, I think that will be wider in that population. And what is important for us to keep in mind is demand changes in structure, not changes in $2,000 check. Medicare for all, minimum pay, things that are structural changes that will affect things that cannot be taken back, that cannot.
This is not what guys like Joe Scarborough have in mind. They are talking exactly about the crumbs, about the $2,000 and stuff. This is how they try to get capitalism out of the target zone.
Yeah,
they are willing to give away some crumbs from the table, right. But they will never support a systemic change. Never ever.
Well, the devil's looking them in the eye across the table. So that's the test.
Did they really recognize
this is the
it?
test.
I don't know.
I don't know if they do all recognize it. I think I'm seeing glimmers of it in this discussion, and I think that it may be just enough to give progressives a little bit more to go on in order to change things for a longer term, and FDR has done exactly that.
Yeah. And before I forget, it was quite a while. Thank you, Al, for your donation. I completely forgot to mention this. There was so much going on here. And also, Jilly, I see that you are raising a lot of questions here. Please understand that I cannot answer them all. I will answer one question with another question to you. You're saying here, Marcus, do you know that USA in 2005, the Supreme Court ruled our police have no obligations to protect us, so then I would like to ask, why do you keeping them? What is the purpose of police who doesn't protect? This is the first thing. Why? What is the purpose of police? To protect and serve is written on most of your cars, as I remember, and and I don't know. And the other question, we will definitely, Julie Love, I promise we will definitely talk about all the scenarios around the election and fraud questions, no fraud questions. But this would require a little bit longer time than we have right now. But we don't shy away from the discussion, of course. This is why we are talking openly here. And we're going through everything. What you guys think, what is in our mind, and shall we go on?
Sure.
All right. Sensational comeback. Beavis and Butthead are back. It's unbelievable, but it's true. Look at them. They changed a little bit. They got a little bit older now and, a little bit more suited, and this is how they look today. Yeah, go to the next slide. Here we got them, and you got to go back to the other one because this is exactly, look at the mouth, it is exactly both. It is Beavis and Butthead, and yeah, they I mean, Beavis and Butthead were no guys, which credited themselves with a lot of intelligence. I watched them in the 90s. We can tell this about those guys also, I guess. Run it.
For those like yourself, Matt, that talked about an audit or raised issues specifically about legal issues, the constitutional issues, consent agreements, the attempt to silence voices are real. Now they're even talking about, censure. And I see your name has come up. I'm not sure exactly what it is about. Can you tell us?
I think the Democrats have been wanting to censure me since about my first day here, Sean. But, we heard from these Silicon Valley
by the
companies.
Way, I have to agree with that. That's probably true, right, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier for me to count the days when the Democrats don't want to censure me than the days we heard from these Silicon Valley companies that they were going to do good and make the world a better place. The reality is that deep inside the chest cavity of every digital woke-topian beats the heart of an online tyrant. These people want to be able to control what we see and how we behave, and to constrain speech in this way, I think is very damaging to the country. This impeachment that we're dealing with this week is not a thoughtful exercise. It's not to protect democracy. It is impeachment by reflex, because the Democrats figured out that they actually have no message to the country except that they don't like President Trump. Well, Jim Jordan and I are here at the Capitol. We are going to fight hard for this president like he has fought so hard for the American people, and one of the greatest presidencies we'll ever encounter.
And we both are idiots. We don't have to discuss it seriously. But he raises an interesting questions, and we also have to confront ourselves with this. And we will do this also in one of our next shows. It is exactly the point he raises. In how far is it possible that that even a corporation which has a monopoly on opinion making or producing opinion can allow that someone gets banned? Where is the law? Can it be decided only by a corporation? These are all questions. Where does freedom of speech end? Does it end somewhere? All those questions we are also raising in one of our next shows, I think, which are very, very important nowadays. But I think it was absolutely hilarious to see them. When I saw them, I think it is absolutely crazy, and the smile of Jim Jones, Jim Jordan, with the, absolutely fitting, hilarious. Yeah. So at least we got some entertaining now. As Trump is going to leave, we got Beavis and Butthead at least. Yeah.
By the way, I had a show this week. I encourage you to watch this. I had a guest who was very interesting. Mr. Marchetich was from Jacobin magazine. He's a staff writer. We discussed issues of fake news, disinformation, misinformation, all that good stuff, censorship, social media. It's a huge topic, and I'm going to have another discussion in the future with another guest. That is a professor from UCLA who is also looking at tech through tech and social media and the intersection for politics and society. So that's something coming up.
Yeah. Topic AOC. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think it is absolutely horrible what she had to experience in the Capitol during the riot. It is unacceptable for any representative or for anyone who was there to fear for their life. But anyway, let's talk about politics, and let's talk about her reaction on this. And she was advocating to impeach Donald Trump, and this is a tweet. And she says a few reasons. Sometimes it's to get members on the record so people can't make excuses later. Sometimes these votes create real political pressure that forces developments. Sometimes we vote for the historical record to let future generations know we did everything we could. And I can understand, that in a situation where you have to fear for your life, yeah, you are angry and you cannot tolerate the harm or the harm which could have been done to you. You know, the danger in which you were. For this tweet, she got 2.2 thousand likes, and I will show you the next tweet. It is coming from Tamanisha J. John, and she responds to AOC, and she says, "This is laughable coming from someone against forcing a floor on sorry. This is laughable coming from someone against forcing a floor vote on M for All, Medicare for All. Proponents use these exact reasons, ones that you painted as irresponsible and unreasonable, to force the vote. And now you're using these exact reasons to justify impeachments." Yes. And I think the vote on Nancy Pelosi, if she stays a speaker, there she was not willing to fight, though there were also lives at risk. You know, people are dying daily on a daily basis because the lack of Medicare for All, of a decent healthcare system. And well, I think it is, as I said last week, you know, since last week Sunday, when the Democrats voted Pelosi to stay speaker, her tweets seem to me more and more hollow and empty. And as you can see, her tweet, AOC's tweet, reached 2.2 thousand likes. And this tweet coming from, I think, Tamanisha J. John is nobody prominent. She has no blue hook next to her name. She got 2.6 thousand likes. And I think this shows perfectly how much credibility AOC and the squad and the so-called progressives lost since last Sunday. And I think more and more people are realizing with this vote decision that it doesn't make no sense anymore to count on the Democratic Party. As I said, for me, you know, I said it last week, for me, it was the only reason to have a little bit of hope in the Democratic Party, a little bit of hope, because of the progressives within. But I think it is just like I feel it. I think many others, as it seems, feel the same, that they feel abandoned and they cannot take AOC for serious anymore. And I think this is something which makes people move on. We know about the talks that a People's Party is in the make, in preparation. We will see where it leads, but it is astounding, you know, from someone who was a Twitter darling, you know, gets set back from someone who is not a prominent figure, but says the right words. Yeah, I think it's revealing. What do you think, Amos? You say
I'm curious why you single out AOC.
AOC is if you want so, the poster girl of the movement, and AOC is we know how she started to get into politics. She started as an activist, and we know about the many occasions she was talking about in how far the politicians in the White House, especially in the House of Representatives, need to be pressured until things get accomplished. And she was fighting with words, but the deeds didn't follow, and this is why her words lost value. And I think it hits her hard. Why do you think it didn't hurt her?
I'm not saying it didn't hurt her. Look, I haven't written off progressives or Bernie-crats in Congress. I think this was an opportunity to do something I don't know all the details. It looked like it was a sound strategy to force the vote. We lost that one, and my view on it is let's move forwards. We have, there's an expression: you fight the war with the soldiers that you have. And we have some soldiers in Congress, and we have to push them in the right direction. And they've done a bunch of things that they've voted progressive things, progressive policies, and in 95% of the cases, we all agree with them. So, this was kind of, in my view, an anomaly. I don't think that we had only one chance and that's it. I think there's going to be other chances. The question is, are they going to be willing to use their force, their power in the upcoming Congress? But there certainly is going to be opportunities that they can squeeze the Democratic Party to concede on some of their points if they play ball with some other things that are important to the center. That's how politics is played. Unfortunately, there's no idealism where it comes to politics. It's a dirty dynamic where you try to get the most for your constituents, or and reject things that you don't agree with. But ultimately, it's not a dictatorship. It's a democracy. We have to figure out how to do it within those bounds. So.
All right. Okay. You know that I completely disagree with it, because I don't see any hope anymore for the Democratic Party. I think that the progressive project is over. There is too much credibility gone with Sunday 8 days ago. And you can talk about accomplishments. I say those accomplishments are the crumbs which the Democratic Party allowed them to get. But when the meat was on the table, that was the important thing. That was Medicare for all. That was the push. That was to get something. With the power to have in a certain situation, they were not willing to use this power. And this is exactly what they were voted for. This was their if you want to, their business plan. If you want to take this all as a business, and if what do you want with a soldier who is unwilling to fight this war?
Yeah,
and
but that's the thing.
And I'm aware
this
is a cynical scenario regarding what happened in the Capitol. But you were sent for a certain purpose. You went to be elected with a certain program, and you did not follow your own program. So what's your use anymore? And I think, and I think it would maybe better if it would be really the deciding moment that progressive thinking people say, okay, we tried it over and over and over with the Democratic Party. We cannot expect anything from them. We don't have to talk about the Republicans. It is time to unite the power and set up something new. And otherwise, if it goes on, if we are still going on and hoping that someday the progressive will deliver something, it is spreading away our sources, where we should be powerful and united in certain things. Medicare for all, we talked about this already in 2016. Medicare for all was in our candidates interviews. It was the litmus test. We call it internally the litmus test. Anyone who had any bullshit in their program about access to healthcare, or something which makes this thing unclear, was called out. Medicare for all was the litmus test since 2016, and in 2021 they did not succeed when they had the big chance. Sorry, Amos.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I'm reserving judgment For now, I'm not ready to.
We will continue this talk because it is great to talk to you as you have another opinion on it. All right. Yeah, let's come to the last section. Oh yes, we got a nice one. We got one of the shortest musicals ever, and the leading role has Elizabeth from Knoxville, Tennessee. And run it, please.
Ma'am, what happened to you?
I got maced.
You got maced. And what happened? You were trying to go inside the Capitol?
I made it like a foot inside, and they pushed me out, and they maced me.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution.
Thank you.
Oh boy.
Great piece, huh? I love it. All right, let's go on. Let's go on what the political cartoons say for this week. Yeah, and we see Inauguration Day, January 2017. This American carnage stops right here, and it stops right now. We remember Trump's words, and we see January 2021. We see the MAGAs burning down the house.
It would be funnier if it wasn't tragic.
Yes, yeah, but that's the reality, This is where, one term Trump. Though I gotta say, it is not only Trump, it is it's decades ago when this all started, if not longer. But Trump was the match who lit it for so far. All right, next one. Wonder if I can collect the insurance. Oh, you already moved on. I'm sorry, you're faster than me. Yeah. And the man on top of the world, the next one.
Yep.
Yes.
Good thing.
The constitutions were written, we the mob.
Yep.
And lying in state.
I don't know if there's public visits.
Yeah. Yeah. Exit stage, alt-right.
Wait, you're ahead of me?
No, my head. Sad day for America. Yeah. And this interesting, this guy, and this is also very interesting, that those who are arrested or got visited by FBI or police, if you hear what their attorneys say, and from both ones, I know the Buffalo guy is his lawyer says, he was following only Trump's orders. There was another guy who was throwing a fire extinguisher at a policeman. His lawyer said the same. My client is innocent. He only did follow Trump's orders. Maybe it turns out if more and more say that they were only following Trump's words on the 6th. Then it could also be something for his impeachment, or maybe for a time in prison.
Shall see.
We'll see. Yeah. Exit stage, alt-right.
Our last one.
Yeah. George Hawley. All right. So, yeah, quite a long show. Oh, nearly 2 hours. All right. After I know that Amos has every time to cut out the last song, in future we won't play any songs anymore because I'm so pissed with YouTube right now. It doesn't make sense anymore, and we are trying only to show stuff like this, and it is quite funny. We are seeing LJ. We know him on AK Alex Jones. He sees his business model disappearing with a competitor like QAnon, and he was waiting for his chance. And now that Trump is not going to be the president anymore, he took his time for a big revenge, his QAnon, and We are going out with it, and
Marcus,
I hope you liked
before,
it. And
before
thank
we
you
do,
all for watching the show, and be safe. Have a nice weekend. See you next week.
Marcus, one thing before we go, I just wanted I just wanted to address something that was said by Convocouch. Hi, Pasta. The question is not what Trump may have said to hide his tracks. The question was he aware that there were people that were seriously contemplating violence? And my answer to that is I'm positive that he knew, because everybody was talking about it. And then why didn't he address that face on? Why did he wait 30 hours to refer to that, to address these people? That's to me a smoking gun. But we can disagree on that.
And one thing, I don't know what this harsh criticism should mean, especially what does it mean? What's the difference between you and MSNBC? In the first place, it's a payment. We are doing this for free in the first place. We don't ask people for money. That's the one thing. And the other thing is, what do you say? What was it here? The elite, the elite censorship is a big threat. I don't know when or at what time we denied this. And I also said that we will talk about this. I don't understand the criticism, but thank you, Convocouch, for your input. Anyway, we are going out now with LJ and the anti-QAnon, and I hope you like it. As I said, have a nice weekend. Stay safe. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
I'm sick of all these witches and warlocks. You're full of shit. Pumpkin popsums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why. Oh, there's energy, and now we're done with Trump. You said he was the Messiah. You said he was invincible. I will not suffer your Q people after this. I knew what you were day one. I know what you are now. Witches and warlocks, you're full of shit. Pumpkin popsums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why every goddamn thing out of your people's mouths doesn't come true. You said it was all over. You told us the stuff. You. Oh, God. Witches and warlocks, you're full of shit. Pumpkin popsums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why witches and warlocks, you're full of shit. Pumpkin popsums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of it's lies.